Hello, my beautiful movie-loving people. Thank you so much for clicking on an episode of Side Flick. My name is Chris. Let's dive into all the movie news we got to discuss here today. Some of the stuff we're going to be talking about here is the confirmation of Saw 10 actually happening with a release date. Are we hyped or not? We seem to have gotten our first hint of the plot for Godzilla vs. Kong 2, letting us know what the movie will be kind of about. We have Ezra Miller coming out and apologizing for their actions. Does this make everything okay? We'll find out. That along with so much more. So many you movie fans to give me your opinions down below with everything we discuss here today, specifically on the Ezra Miller stuff, because finally, man, after months, what feels like almost years of just wrongdoing after wrongdoing, they come out and apologize. What happens now? Are you okay with this? So our first news story here that we're going to dive into is the confirmation and release date for Kung Fu Panda 4. We had DreamWorks Studios come out and officially confirm that Kung Fu Panda 4 will be releasing March 8th, 2024. And this was honestly kind of a random surprise thrown out there. I didn't think we would be getting another Kung Fu Panda movie, especially with them making this Kung Fu Panda Netflix series. That's been out for a while, something you just let your kid play on the iPad while you're just trying to have a good breakfast at IHOP. Cállate, Juanito! So I thought really that's just kind of where the franchise was right now. It's just a fun little kid Netflix series on there for them, but we're actually getting another movie. We don't necessarily have a plot in mind. The funniest thing I found when they announced Kung Fu Panda 4 though is, guess what movie was trending? Shrek 5, baby. You can't stay away from the ogre. DreamWorks, I don't know why you're holding back on us, man. You are sitting on a gold mine. Release Shrek 5. But I throw it off to you guys. Are you excited that Kung Fu Panda 4 got announced? And are you excited to see another entry? Speaking about excited for another entry, I can't believe how indifferent I am about this next story here, because we got the confirmation of another Saw movie coming out next year. We had heard rumors the past couple of months that Saw 10 was in the works, but Bloody Disgusting yesterday finally went ahead and confirmed it here, saying next Saw movie set for Halloween 2023 release, with Kevin Gruter directing. And let me tell you guys, I'm someone who loves the Saw franchise. I hold that franchise in a very soft place in my heart. I've talked about this before, but I grew up with a dad that just let me see so many R-rated movies as a young kid, and I have such fond memories of the Saw franchise, because for a period where those first 7 movies were coming out, they came out yearly. You were not waiting 2 or 3 years for the next sequel. Literally every Halloween for 7 years straight, you got a Saw movie in theaters. And boy, me and my dad were there opening night of every single one of those Saw movies, to the point that I remember going from a packed crowd to eventually when Saw 6 and 7 were coming out, that theater was mainly just us and a couple other people. But I've always just really liked the Saw franchise, and that's why it kind of pains me to say right now, I'm not that excited for a 10th film. And the main reason for that here is because of the plot they're going with right now. We have here viewer Annan, who's been a source in Hollywood that lets us know a lot of stuff about upcoming movies, and they have it here a week before we officially got this announcement saying Saw 10 is coming, and here are some early details. It still looks to be a prequel focusing on Tobin Bell, with the plan to start shooting within the next 3 months in Mexico. Jigsaw/Spiral writers are back, but there are no story connections to those movies, and that right there basically sums up why I'm just not that pumped. Because the last 2 Saw movies have been trying to soft reboot the franchise with a whole new story and take that end up just being the exact same formulaic Saw sequels that we've gotten. Jigsaw was trying to tell us a backstory to John Kramer that we never knew about, a secret apprentice that they were training to carry on the Jigsaw name. They abandoned that storyline. Then we got Spiral from the Book of Saw that I was super pumped and excited for. It was going to star Chris Rock. It was being branded as a spin-off. It was going to be a whole new take on the Saw franchise, and even though I enjoyed aspects of that movie, it ended up being just another formulaic Saw sequel with a brand new skin attached. Literally, instead of Jigsaw, you got the pig puppet, and the way the story and twist unfolded is like something that's happened in like 3 other Saw movies. And the main problem to me is like, how can you keep wanting to like reboot, reinvent, do something different with Saw, but you bring back all the same creative team members? Of course it's not going to feel different, and you're going to continue making another movie where the next sequel after that, you're going to ignore that storyline, because that's what you did with Jigsaw, that's what you did with Spiral. This new movie's not going to touch upon those past 2 stories, and instead you're going to bring back that same writer who, I don't want to be a douche, but you need to let someone new handle the franchise, and you're going to bring a director again from one of the other Saw sequels. Granted, they did do Saw 6, which is like one of my favorite Saw sequels, but they also directed Saw 3D that I don't even want to talk about it. So look, even with my complaining and whining, I'm gonna see this movie opening night. I'm a Saw fan, I'm gonna be there, but story-wise and what they have to offer, I just can't get excited when your last two reboots have now been abandoned and you're not really gonna touch upon them. It's exciting to think that Tobin Bell is back, but giving us a prequel to before the Saw franchise, I'm assuming him doing his first traps before his cancer, just feel out of place with the character. It would also be like the 100th time you reveal some unknown backstory to Jigsaw, where, let me guess, you'll have another apprentice after the 5,000 apprentices we've learned he's trained in the background. The franchise was honestly at its best when you were telling a smaller story and had characters that followed through to the next sequel. But that's just my opinion on the Saw franchise. Sorry for ranting off there. I really like this series and I just want it to be glorious again. I throw it off to you guys. Are you excited for Saw 10 happening? And since we're on the subject of horror movies getting sequels that they probably don't need, we have here an interview that The Boy 3 is looking to be a thing. Thanks to comicbook.com, who was doing an interview with the director William Brent Bell, who's directing the latest Orphan movie, Orphan First Kill, that's actually getting decent reviews, comes out this weekend, and I'm gonna talk about and do a review for you guys. They were also asked about the other series they were involved with, The Boy. Now, before I read the comments about what the third movie will be about, I do just want to say, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen that first The Boy movie, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a great movie or one everyone should check out, but I do think the movie is slightly watchable and enjoyable, and the twist kind of elevates it. So if you ever do plan to watch that movie and you don't want the twist ruined, just skip to the next story. But here they're talking about what they're going to do for a third movie, and I'm actually on board for it. When asked about a third The Boy movie, they said, I think so. I think we made the first movie. The assumption was if we continued the story, it would have been the story of Brahms, the guy in the walls, like a slasher killer. And then as time went on, the producers saw how the doll became in the zeitgeist with Kirshner in particular. So it was like, okay, we'll focus on that. But in a way, I feel like a movie, it's either you have a great standalone film or you probably need a trilogy to really round out a character. So the second film in that series focused on the doll, and I think the third film would 100% focus on Brahms the guy. And let me tell you, I love that statement, and as someone who could care less about this franchise, I'd actually watch that third movie now. Because that first movie, The Boy, I was hyped to see. You guys know, I'm a sucker for killer doll movies, and that's what that was branded as. I thought I was gonna see me a killer doll movie about this girl who has to babysit this little doll that turns out to be alive and then haunts her and starts killing people around her, but the big twist of the movie was the doll was never haunted. There was actually just a man living in the walls controlling the doll when people weren't looking, and I actually kind of liked that twist. Even though it felt like I got cheated out of a killer doll movie, I was like, you know what? That was okay. Then we got the second The Boy movie, and it was just really weird to me because it's like, well, we already know the twist about the doll not being actually alive, so why are you focusing on this doll? And they try going back and retconning things and say, no, actually, the doll was haunted all along. It manipulates someone in your family to kill your family. And honestly, I just really didn't even like that movie. I thought it was kind of lame and it ruined the twist of the last movie. So to hear now that the director originally just wanted to stick to the idea of Brahms as a serial killer, having that porcelain mask, that kid who was living behind the walls all his life, that's a great idea for a movie, and it sticks to kind of what they set up. I would be down to see that. Especially now with Orphan First Kill actually getting pretty decent reviews, they'd probably let him do it. So I'm glad they're not going to do another movie where they pretend this doll is alive or isn't alive and then we get some random weird twist at the end. I throw it off to you guys though. You hear the possibility of The Boy 3 is coming. This is the plot for it. Would you watch it? Moving on here, talking about some Godzilla vs. Kong 2. It is so nice to be able to talk about these two legends getting another movie coming out, and the more we've been hearing about the film, it really does sound like it's going to be another rematch between the two icons, and that's really exciting for fans, but there is still a hint of doubt in our minds because we just don't know exactly what's going down. Sure, we know they're filming the movie right now in Australia. We've seen footage of that. We've even gotten little pics of the working title they're going with, Origins, whatever that means for the film. But we still don't know exactly what the movie is. Why is Godzilla and Kong fighting again? How does Godzilla even play into the story? Who's gonna be the big bad guy? Because we know we can't just have them fighting the entire movie. There's got to be someone else coming in. And well, the Australian government recently put out a press release talking about how the movie right now is filming in their country, the tax break they're receiving from it. And in the description of this release, they also gave us a plot for the movie. The plot released by the Australian government government goes as, the fifth film in the monster franchise will see Kong defend the Earth from the unusual and dangerous creatures that threaten his new home. One thing I gotta mention about that plot, no mention at all about Godzilla. Now we're assuming Godzilla is part of this movie because the official Toho website mentioned Godzilla will return for this film, but if that's the plot we got right now, it looks like to be another King Kong centered sequel. And I ain't complaining. You guys know here, Team Kong every day and any day. But I also want to be fair to my people who don't support hairy cheeks. There are Godzilla fans out there that always feel cheated with these films, especially Godzilla vs. Kong, because that one really painted Godzilla as the bad guy, barely gave him any screen time, would just randomly show up, fight Kong or Mecha, and then leave. And it feels like they might basically do that same thing here, have it very Kong-centered, with Godzilla popping up randomly here and there. And for me, while that's fine, because I prefer King Kong over Godzilla, I just gotta think that's gotta piss off some Godzilla fans. I think, again, it just comes down to the director, Adam Wingard, who I am happy to be back, and he's even mentioned before in previous interviews before this sequel was getting made that he wants to make the first MonsterVerse movie that is 70% monsters and 30% humans. And I think that's just much easier to do with a character like King Kong, who has a lot of human-like qualities to him, that it's easy for him to emote on screen, what he's thinking, the struggles he's going through, and Godzilla just really hasn't been that in the movies. We don't sit there and see Godzilla ponder, be sad, depressed, think about his next move. We just kind of see him fight and be a badass. Still, only time will tell. There's still a lot to learn about this movie, but I throw it off to you guys right now. It looks like it'll be another King Kong centered movie with Godzilla popping up here and there. Does that make you excited, or does that make you disappointed? Moving on here, talking about Ezra Miller, the thing I never thought would happen has happened. I did a video the other day talking about Warner Brothers pondering their options for the Flash movie, and one of those options included Ezra Miller doing an interview talking about their wrongdoings and apologizing for it, and I said, that's a terrible idea. I don't think them explaining themselves and everything bad they've done could go good. It's probably best just to release the movie and pretend Ezra doesn't exist. And well, Warner Brothers still went with option one, and Ezra Miller has finally officially apologized for what they've done. Exclusively here with the Variety, we have Ezra Miller's apology that goes as, having recently gone through a time of intense crisis, I now understand that I am suffering complex mental health issues and have begun ongoing treatment. I want to apologize to everyone that I have alarmed and upset with my past behavior. I am committed to doing the necessary work to go back to a healthy, safe, and productive stage in my life. Really short, sweet, and to the point. And I want to make one thing clear. This one apology from Ezra does not all of a sudden absolve them of everything that they've done in the past, make them a saint, and us cheering for them and going, you know what, you're fine, Ezra, we love you, we can't wait to see you as the Flash. I think that's really up to you as a fan to decide whether you want to believe that or not. For me personally, I just think it's a step in the right direction. This was the best case scenario because I really thought Ezra Miller was going to sit down, do a videotape interview where they get asked, why did you do this? Why did this happen? And I just didn't see that going good. And this really isn't even an interview. It's just more of a statement. And in the statement, they admit they have a problem and they're gonna seek out help. And that's really what I think a lot of people want for Ezra Miller, is just to get that help. There's clearly some issues going on in Ezra Miller's life for all these things that have happened the past couple of months. So to hear that they're finally going to get some help and they're going to try and stick to that treatment is just good to hear about. Let's just actually hope we don't hear any more Ezra Miller shenanigans, because if that happens, I just don't even know, man. I know people won't be surprised if next week or in a couple of days we get another Ezra Miller headline, but now they have to remain squeaky damn clean, because if not, this apology will not mean anything. But on the flip side of that, if from now until the Flash releases and we don't get any more weird headlines or situations that Ezra has gone through and they've actually stuck to their treatment, are doing whatever it takes to get better, I think we could actually start seeing then some real marketing for the Flash where Ezra Miller's actually doing interviews, talking about his character, what it's like to be Barry Allen, what they wanted to do with this movie, and that would just kind of be nice to see. But I also highly doubt after this Flash movie they'll be Flash again. Even if they stick to their treatment and get better and do nothing wrong and the Flash movie comes out and everyone loves Ezra Miller's Barry Allen, I think they're still going to replace them. Warner Bros. And Discovery do not want to repeat history and have The Flash 2 be in production, make a movie, and then Ezra Miller slips up. And then we get headline after headline, and they're thinking to themselves, here we go again. We could have saved ourselves millions of dollars if we just replaced this actor. But I also want to know from you fans, do you accept Ezra Miller's apology? What do you think will happen now, whether they stay clean or they get into another huffle? Would really love to know from you guys. But that is all the movie news we currently have going on right now, guys. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch me talk some movie news. Don't be forgetting to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.